I thought family was a sanctuary. I thought my parents loved me more than money. But the day I saw the sold sign on the land my grandfather left specifically for me, I realized I wasn't a daughter. I was just an asset to be liquidated. They shouldn't have done that, because now I own everything they ever touched. The air in the Hamptons always smelled like salt and old money, but to me, it smelled like Grandpa Silas. He was the only one who saw me. While my parents, Diane and Robert, were busy chasing social status and burning through their dwindling trust funds, Grandpa Silas would take me to the North Acre. It was 60 acres of prime coastal land, untouched, beautiful, and worth tens of millions. On my 21st birthday, he whispered to me that it was mine. Not theirs. Mine. A year after he passed, I was finishing my degree in Boston, working 3 jobs because my parents claimed they were tight on cash. I didn't mind. I had the acre. I had a future. But then, the phone calls started getting shorter. My mother's voice became thin, brittle. "Lila, honey," she said one evening, her voice trembling with that fake sweetness she used before asking for a favor. "The estate taxes are complicated. We might need you to sign a few documents for the transition." I trusted them. I was 22. I was grieving. I signed the digital forms they sent, thinking I was just formalizing Grandpa's will. But 3 weeks later, I drove up to the coast for the weekend. I wanted to sit on the cliffs, to feel Grandpa near me. I pulled up to the gate, and my heart stopped. A massive, black and gold sign was hammered into the soil. Sold. Luxury developments coming soon. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands started shaking against the steering wheel. I called my father. He didn't pick up. I called my mother. She answered on the 4th ring, the background noise filled with the clinking of champagne glasses. "Mom, why is there a sold sign on my land?" There was a long pause, a silence so heavy I could hear her breathing. "Lila, we had debts. Your father's firm, it was an emergency. We sold it to a developer group. You'll get a small stipend, eventually." It was for the family. "The family?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "That was my future. Grandpa left that to me, to protect me from people like you." "Don't be dramatic, Lila," she snapped, the mask finally slipping. "You're young. You have time. We have a reputation to maintain. Now, please, we're at a gala. Don't ruin the night." She hung up. I sat in my car, the engine idling, staring at the land they had stolen. They didn't just sell dirt and grass. They sold the only thing I had left of the man who loved me. They thought I was a child. They thought I would cry, and then eventually, just accept it. They were wrong. I didn't go home. I stayed in a cheap motel nearby and started digging. If they were desperate enough to steal 60 acres from their own daughter, they were hiding something massive. I used the last of my savings to hire a forensic accountant. What we found was sickening. My father hadn't just lost money at the firm. He had been embezzling from the family's remaining charitable foundation to pay for their lifestyle. The sale of my land wasn't just to pay debts, it was to cover the hole in the foundation before the annual audit. They had sacrificed my entire life to stay out of prison. I went to their house a week later. They were sitting on the patio, drinking expensive wine as if they hadn't just gutted their child's soul. "I want the money back," I said, standing at the edge of the pool. My father didn't even look up from his tablet. "The money is gone, Lila. It's handled. Go back to school and be grateful we still pay your cell phone bill." "Grateful," I whispered, stepping closer. "You forged my secondary consent on the sale. I've seen the papers. You used a digital signature from an old IP address at the house while I was in Boston." My mother laughed, a cold, high-pitched sound. "And who will you tell? The police? You'd send your own father to jail? Think of the scandal, Lila. You'd be a pariah. You'd have nothing." That was the peak. The moment the girl who wanted her parents' love finally died. I looked at Diane, with her perfect pearls, and Robert, with his arrogant smirk. They weren't my parents. They were predators. "You're right," I said, my voice becoming hauntingly calm. "I won't go to the police. Not yet." I walked away. I spent the next 3 months living in a tiny studio, working 20 hours a day. I realized the developer group, they sold the land to a shell company called Vanguard North. Through some deep web searching and a few favors from Grandpa's old business associates who hated my father, I found out who really owned Vanguard North. It was a rival firm that my father had insulted for years. They didn't want the land for luxury condos. They wanted it to build a high-density industrial waste facility right next to my parents' precious coastal estate. My parents didn't read the fine print of the sale. They were so desperate for the cash, they didn't see the zoning clause. I contacted the CEO of the rival firm. I told him I had the original deed, Grandpa's personal letters, and proof of the forged signature. I told him I could tie the land up in litigation for 10 years, or I could help him. "What do you want?" the CEO asked me. "I want the controlling shares of the shell company," I whispered. "And I want the debt notes for my parents' house." The execution was beautiful and silent. I waited until the morning of their 30th anniversary party. They had invited everyone. The governors, the CEOs, the entire social circle they worshipped. I arrived late. I wasn't wearing the old clothes of a struggling student. I was wearing a black silk suit, and I was carrying a leather folder. My mother approached me, hissing under her breath. "Lila, you weren't invited to this part of the evening. Leave now before you embarrass us." "Oh, I'm not here as your daughter, Diane," I said, loud enough for the guests nearby to hear. "I'm here as the new chairwoman of Vanguard North, and as the primary lien holder of this property." The garden went silent. My father pushed through the crowd, his face turning a deep, angry red. "What nonsense are you talking about?" I pulled the documents out. "You sold my inheritance to cover your crimes, but you were so sloppy. I bought the debt you owed to the developers. And since you defaulted on the secondary payment yesterday, this house, the cars, even the jewelry Diane is wearing, it all belongs to the corporation, which I control." My father lunged for the papers, but 2 security guards I had hired stepped forward. "You're bluffing," Robert growled, his voice shaking. "Check your email, Robert," I whispered, leaning in close so only he could hear. "The audit of the foundation is complete. I sent the files to the DA's office an hour ago. You have about 20 minutes before the sirens start." The panic in his eyes was the most delicious thing I had ever seen. My mother started to scream, a jagged, ugly sound. The friends they had spent years impressing started backing away, heading for their cars to avoid the scandal. Within 30 minutes, the police arrived. As they led my father away in handcuffs for embezzlement and forgery, and as my mother sat on the marble floor of the foyer, sobbing because the bank was already freezing her accounts, I walked out to the North Acre. The sold sign was gone. I had used the corporation to buy the land back from itself. I sat on the cliff, the wind blowing through my hair. The salt air smelled like Grandpa again. "I got it back, Grandpa," I whispered, closing my eyes. The revenge was complete. I didn't just have the land. I had the satisfaction of watching them lose the only thing they ever truly loved, their status. They were in a cage of their own making, and I was finally truly free. If you believe that family should never come between you and your future, hit the like button. Subscribe for more stories of justice and revenge. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if your parents stole your inheritance?